We received a report of a missing person in regards to Elizabeth Boliew.
I knew that there was something wrong. She would never abandon her cats.
Did you find any clues?
Blood. We found blood on her couch, inside of a floor, heating vent.
Did he confess to his involvement in the crime?
He actually was trying to kill himself when he drove over the cliff. About 20 yards into the woods, we find this burned body. What's left is a skull, a spinal cord, some ribs.
He just had the darkest, deadest eyes I've ever seen in my life. I was really worried about her being alone in a house with a stranger. The waiting was really hard. I didn't really know what was going on.
There was somebody that was preying on real estate agents because it's not a far stretch to have the ability to do something to a real estate agent at an empty property. This was just a vile, evil individual, and unfortunately, Elizabeth encountered him.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's crime exposé takes us to Pensacola, located in the Florida Panhandle and home to beautiful beaches and a bustling tourist community. It was here that a successful landlord vanished under a shroud of mystery. Her loved ones feared she had been abducted while showing a property to a prospective tenant. But detectives never could have imagined the shocking direction their investigation would take. It was a warm and sunny afternoon when Tori Boliew called police.
We received a report of a missing person in regards to Elizabeth Boliew. We received a call from her daughter, Tori. Tori indicated that she hadn't seen her mother in about a week.
So I was like, hey, I think my mom might be missing. I don't really know what to do. And they were like, okay, we'll send out an officer to get the information and we'll proceed from there.
What did your mother say in her message?
My mom, she just said, hey, love, I've got some extra gumbo if you want to come by and get it. I think it was extra gumbo for you and Sean if you want to come by and get it. And that was the last time I heard her voice.
When all of Tori's phone calls to her mother went unanswered, she called the real estate office where her mother worked.
The lady that answered the phone, her name was Trish. She said, Tori, we haven't seen your mom in a couple of days, and she didn't show up to our Christmas party. And so at that point, I knew there was something wrong.
Tori went to her mother's apartment to check on her.
Poked my head in and I yelled for my mom and no answer. And so I went ahead and went in and started looking around, and I walked through her bedroom. Her bed was made. I went into the bathroom to see if her medications were still there, because that was going to be a clue to me if she had taken off somewhere and just forgot to tell us or something. And her medications were still there, her toothbrush was still there. So now I'm starting to get a little panicky. And
even more alarm bells went off when it was clear her mother's cats hadn't been fed for days.
I knew that there was something wrong, because she would never abandon her cats and just leave them to fend for themselves.
Could you determine if anything was missing?
Her cell phone and her purse were missing, and as was her vehicle. I started getting very worried because where's her car, where's her purse, where's her cell phone?
A be on the lookout was immediately issued for Elizabeth's van. Detectives feared her work could have put her in harm's way.
With her job as a real estate agent, the concern was she had met with a client and something had happened, and that maybe there was somebody that was preying on real estate agents, because it's not a far stretch to have the ability to do something to a real estate agent at an empty property.
Tori hoped her mother's co-workers could provide them with a lead.
Did she show any houses? I was really worried about, her being alone in a house with a stranger, and you know, something could happen, a robbery or any number of things.
But none of Elizabeth's coworkers knew her schedule. While crime scene technicians began searching Elizabeth's apartment, detectives fanned out to question her tenants.
The home that she lived in was like an old colonial type 3-story home. The ground floor was the portion of the home that she lived in. So she lived on the entirety of floor number 1. And then above her were the apartments that she had converted for other tenants.
But with no sign of Elizabeth, all her family could do was pray for her safe return.
Every time the phone rang, I hoped it was like, we found her, she's fine, she's in the hospital, she has amnesia. I mean, anything, you know, like that would have been just awesome.
There was well over $3,000 worth of transactions. So now he's living it up off of Elizabeth's money. That same day, we had gone out to Elizabeth's house and started canvassing the home that she lived in and talking to the neighbors. And through that canvassing, one of her tenants had pulled up to the house. He matched the basic physical characteristics of a person that we had on video in town using Elizabeth's credit card.
Elizabeth Boliew had vanished into thin air, and no one could understand who would have wanted to harm the spirited and generous 58-year-old. How would you describe your mom's personality?
My mom was feisty. She was an artist. She was independent. She always made sure that me and my brother were taken care of. We were always welcome in her house. She shared. If she had anything to share, she would share it. Even if she didn't have something to share, she would try.
When she wasn't spending time with her 2 grown children, she was busy managing her tenants and her job as a real estate agent.
So she was always showing houses, trying to close those houses so she could have an income. She had 4 properties that she also rented out to local tenants.
As the hours ticked by, Elizabeth's family began to fear the worst.
I was absolutely alarmed, 100%, a 10 out of 10. You know, I was just playing all these scenarios out in my head, like, you know, maybe this happened, maybe that happened.
But then law enforcement got a lead. They located Elizabeth's missing van on the side of a busy highway.
Her vehicle had been recovered, abandoned on the side of the interstate outside of Tallahassee, Florida, which is about 2 hours away from Pensacola.
Did you find any clues inside the vehicle?
We knew that when the vehicle was recovered, that the driver's seat was pushed all the way back and almost laid down, so that was not like Elizabeth. When they turned the car on, it was music that she would not have been listening to. So there was indications that someone else had been driving her car.
More red flags were raised when detectives discovered Elizabeth's credit and ATM cards had been used after her disappearance.
There was well over $3,000 worth of transactions, whether it be cash withdrawals or a purchase like a camcorder at Best Buy. These had all happened in the days after she was last seen. Security
video from the ATM machine captured one of the withdrawals.
Video wasn't too terribly detailed, but you could tell that it was a white male. It was athletically built, and he was younger, probably in his late teens, early 20s. The guy in the video is wearing like a ball cap, so you can't really see a lot of facial features.
And detectives found more surveillance footage of the same young man using her credit card.
And so you see this individual walk into this convenience store, select some items, go up to the counter, and pay.
A photo of the suspect was quickly distributed to the media. It was then the forensics team searching her apartment revealed the ominous clues they had discovered.
And what we found in the apartment was blood. We found blood on her couch in her living room. We found blood inside of a floor like heating vent where we could see blood dropping into the vent.
And there was more.
And then using luminol, our crime scene investigators were able to find cleaned up drag marks of blood going from the living room out the back door.
Their missing person report had just turned into a homicide.
We knew that this was going to be a crime scene, that there had been an effort to clean up the crime scene.
A terrifying picture was slowly coming into focus. Elizabeth had been viciously attacked and robbed inside her apartment.
I believe that he forced her to give him the PIN number and then murdered her after he had that. So now he's living it up off of Elizabeth's money.
Police believed they were on the hunt for a ruthless killer and quickly tracked Elizabeth's cell phone to a nearby mall.
And we found that it was last used near Cordova Mall, and we found that the phone was actually recovered by some groundskeepers at the local mall. It was being held in their security office, so now we had her phone.
Detectives combed through her cell records.
Going through it, we found numerous phone calls to a particular number in the days after she was last seen.
Who did the number belong to?
Then it ended up belonging to an individual by the name of Ted Hughes.
But the 20-year-old looked nothing like the man in the surveillance videos. Detectives called Ted Hughes, and he claimed he had nothing to do with Elizabeth Boliew's disappearance.
He indicated that he didn't know who she was.
He agreed to come to the station for an interview, but he never showed up. Moments later, a call came in.
I was contacted by some of our officers who indicated that, hey, the guy that was supposed to come in and talk to you about this missing person, he actually got into a car crash. And what they explained was he had driven over the cliff at Bluffs Park, and they had found him in the bay not far from where his car was crashed. And he was injured, and he had been taken to the hospital.
Did he confess to his involvement in the crime?
He felt incredibly guilty about his role, his participation in the cover-up. He actually was trying to kill himself when he drove over the cliff.
Detectives investigating Elizabeth Boliew's disappearance had developed a promising lead and were waiting to speak with 20-year-old Ted Hughes about his involvement in the crime.
Here's this guy who didn't show and drives his car over a cliff in a single car accident. So that was very unusual, and he's now in the hospital.
While investigators waited, they expanded their efforts.
That same day, though, we had gone out to Elizabeth's house and started canvassing the home that she lived in and talking to the neighbors. And through that canvassing, one of her tenants had pulled up to the house.
When detectives got a close look at the tenant, they were stunned.
He matched the basic physical characteristics of a person that we had on video in town using Elizabeth's credit card.
His name was Michael Tremere, and he told police he had a good working relationship with his landlady.
When we're talking with him, he explains that she was a really nice lady, never had any conflicts, never had any complaints.
But when detectives dug deeper, they were convinced they were finally on the right track.
We determined that Elizabeth was actually in the process of evicting him. He did not have money. He was behind on his rent. He had been a problematic tenant with noise complaints and drug use in the apartment that Elizabeth was aware of, and she was evicting him. In fact, she had gone to the courthouse that day to finalize the eviction paperwork.
Detectives brought the 21-year-old to the station and asked him to take a polygraph, which showed signs of deception. Police say Tremere then tried to sell them a story he had clearly made up.
A couple hours in, he explains that he was also a victim and that he knows who killed Elizabeth because two black males had apprehended him and made him participate in the cover-up of her murder.
But detectives weren't buying it, and hours later, he began to get closer to the truth. What did he tell you about the moment of Elizabeth's death?
He explains that on the day of her disappearance, she came up to complain about the noise and was going to evict him, and he became very upset over this revelation, so he follows her back downstairs to her apartment, confronts her at the door. She tries to shove him out the door, and he responds by punching her in the face, which kills her. So his story is that he punched her one time in the face, and she fell down and died in her apartment.
Detectives knew he was downplaying the violence involved in the attack.
The amount of blood that was cleaned up did not match up with a single punch causing the death.
He said afterwards he had called a friend to help him dispose of Elizabeth's body.
He used Elizabeth's phone to call his friend Ted. Now, when he says the name Ted, I immediately know who he's talking about, and now that explains what had happened with Ted driving over the cliff and all that stuff that had happened the day before. Immediately my ears shot up that, oh my God, this is the connection between him and Ted.
Michael said Ted agreed to help.
So they go to Walmart, they buy these flammables, and he asked Ted if there's a place that he knew that he could get rid of or dispose of a body. So Ted explained that there's a wooded area not far from his house that they could bring the body there.
Michael led detectives to Elizabeth's remains.
About 20 yards into the woods, we find this burned body that he indicates is Elizabeth Boliew. And what's left is a skull, a spinal cord, some ribs, and a big burn patch in this dirt underneath this shrub.
Elizabeth's family was devastated by the tragic and horrific news.
That was absolutely shocking when I found out that they had burned her body and that they had found her in the woods. He's just a disgusting human being.
During Michael Tremeer's trial, his friend Ted Hughes testified for the prosecution. The courtroom was silent as Hughes took the stand and revealed what Tremeer had told him about the moment of Elizabeth's grisly death.
Michael had told him that he had used a knife to stab her and had given some very gruesome details about what had taken place. And that matched the scene more so than Michael's story.
The testimony provided Elizabeth's family the answers they so desperately deserved, but nothing would ever replace the void her murder left in their hearts.
I do miss her every day, you know. I think about her smile. She was funny. Her side of the family lived long, and I believe that she would have still been alive and been a grouchy old grandma that I could go drink tea with, and maybe paint with or something. We were just starting to become good friends as I was maturing, and that got taken from me, that opportunity to be friends with my mom.
Michael Tremeer was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Ted Hughes pled guilty to accessory after the fact, and during his sentencing, Elizabeth's daughter Tori asked the judge for leniency. The 20-year-old was given 10 years probation for his involvement in the crime. And now, it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Being a landlord sometimes comes not only with financial risks, but physical risks as well. To help maximize your safety, experts recommend that landlords run a background check on prospective renters, and not just financial inquiries, but an eye towards criminal history as well. If you're a landlord and find yourself in a contentious relationship with a renter or are forced to evict them, have a safety plan in mind for all potential scenarios. If you have been threatened or fear for your safety, err on the side of caution and contact law enforcement. That call just might save your life. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.